All right, today we're diving into something pretty cool. It's an ancient system of thought, but it's not really about faith in the way you might think. It's more like a deep philosophical investigation, a kind of blueprint for reality itself. So let's jump right in.
So let me ask you this. What do you think is the most important question a belief system can ask? You know, for a lot of them, the big questions are about who to worship or how to be a good person, right? But the system we're looking at today, it starts somewhere completely different, somewhere way more fundamental.
So most systems might ask, who should I worship or what rituals do I follow? But this one, it kicks things off with this incredibly direct, almost brutal question. What is actually real? I mean, think about that. It's not asking what's nice to believe or what makes you feel good. It's asking what is fundamentally, absolutely real. It treats reality like a mystery, a problem that we have to solve with logic.
Okay, so where do you even start with a question that big? Well, like any good investigation, you have to set some ground rules. You have to define what you're looking for and create a test. So let's see how this system does exactly that.
And the conditions they came up with, man, they are strict. For something to be considered sat, which is the word for ultimate reality, it has to pass 3 tests. 1, it has to exist all by itself, not depending on anything else. 2, it can't ever change, ever. And 3, it has to be the last thing standing when everything else is gone. If something fails even one of these, it's not the ultimate reality. It's just a temporary or a dependent reality.
All right, let's put this test into action. First up to the plate, matter. You know, the stuff we're made of. Our bodies, this planet, the stars, the whole physical shebang. So does it change? Oh yeah, constantly. Is it independent? Nope. It needs energy and all sorts of forces to even exist. So, boom, matter fails the test. It's not ultimately real. Okay, but what about energy? I mean, that's what matter's made of, right? Well, let's see. Energy is always changing, right? It's turning into matter, it's shifting forms from heat to light. And does it exist on its own? Not really. It needs space and time to even be a thing. So, guess what? Energy fails the test too. It changes and it's dependent. Next. All right, this has to be it then. The very fabric of reality itself, space and time. Surely they are the ultimate reality, right? Well, you'd think so, but no. And what's really wild is how this ancient idea lines up with modern physics. Space isn't static, it bends and curves. Time isn't constant, it can speed up or slow down. And they both had a beginning at the Big Bang. So they're not unchanging and they're not independent. They fail the test too.
So after all that, after we've tested matter, energy, space, and time, we're left with this really precise and honestly kind of mind-blowing conclusion. The universe we see and touch, it's real. Yeah, for all practical purposes. But it's not ultimately real. It's a dependent reality, not the final truth.
Okay, so if the whole physical universe isn't the ultimate reality, then what the heck is? This whole investigation doesn't just stop there at a dead end. No, it keeps pushing. It asks, all right, what's left after you strip everything else away? And that's the key question, isn't it? After you've logically gotten rid of matter, energy, space, and time, after you've peeled back every layer that changes, every layer that depends on something else, what's left? Is there anything left? And the answer, the logical conclusion, is a concept called Brahman. Now this is super important. Brahman is not a god with a beard sitting on a cloud. It's the very ground of existence itself. I love this analogy. Think of it like the blank movie screen. The movie itself is full of color and action and change, right? But none of it would be possible without the unchanging, silent screen behind it all. Brahman is that screen. It's not a being, it is being itself.
So just to be super clear here, Brahman is not a person, a deity, male or female. It's a fundamental principle. It's more like a law of physics or a core axiom in math. It's not located somewhere in space. It is the ground of existence that space and everything else appears in.
Okay, that's a huge cosmic idea, right? But is there any proof? How can you possibly verify something like that? Well, according to this system, the lab you need for this experiment isn't some billion-dollar particle accelerator. The laboratory is you.
And this gets us right to the heart of what modern science calls the hard problem of consciousness. Look, science is amazing at telling us how the brain works, which neurons fire when you see the color red, but it can't tell us what it's like to see red. Who or what is the one having the experience? That's the big mystery.
And this leads to a really simple but profound line of reasoning. Think about it. You are aware of your body, right? You feel its aches, you see it change. So you can't be your body. You are also aware of your thoughts. You can literally watch them pop into your head and then fade away. So you can't be your thoughts. The logical conclusion? You must be the awareness in which all of these things, body, thoughts, emotions, appear.
And this unchanging background awareness, this pure witness consciousness, it has a name, Atman. And let's be clear, this isn't your personality. It's not your memories or your ego. It's just the silent, still observer behind all of that noise.
And here it is. This is the big one, the central mind-bending conclusion of this entire system. That inner awareness, the Atman, and the ultimate reality of the universe, Brahman, are the exact same thing. Atman equals Brahman. They aren't two separate things. The awareness inside you is the reality that makes up the entire cosmos. It's like realizing the light from the projector and the screen it hits are both just aspects of the same electricity powering the whole theater. But here's the kicker. You're not just supposed to take this on faith. No way. It's presented as a hypothesis, something you have to test for yourself. And these are the tools for your inner lab. Meditation is how you learn to observe your own mind without getting caught up in it. Yoga is a way to systematically experiment with consciousness itself. And inquiry and discipline, those are how you sharpen your mind so you can see things clearly. These are basically technologies for verifying the claim through your own direct experience. So once you have this foundational idea in place, that the ultimate reality is this one single conscious ground, everything else starts to look a little different. It completely reframes how you think about things like gods and even time itself. Check this out, for example. In these ancient texts, they talk about a single cosmic cycle. They call it one day of Brahma, and they say it lasts for 4.32 billion years. Now, what does modern science say is the age of the Earth? About 4.54 billion years. That is incredibly close. It's a pretty fascinating detail, to say the least. And what about all the gods you hear about, like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva? Well, from this philosophical perspective, they're not really separate supernatural people fighting with each other. They're more like labels for the fundamental forces of reality itself. You've got Brahma, the creative force that projects the universe. You've got Vishnu, the force of order that holds it all together. And you've got Shiva, the force of destruction or entropy that dissolves it all. You can't have a universe without all three of those functions, right? This also helps us understand that tricky concept of Maya, or illusion. It's a super common misunderstanding to think this means the world is fake. That's not it at all. It just means the world isn't what it appears to be. Think about a wave in the ocean. Is the wave real? Of course it is. But it's not a separate thing, is it? It's just the ocean taking on a temporary shape. Its reality is totally dependent on the ocean. Maya is the idea that we see the universe as a collection of separate waves, and we forget that it's all just one ocean, one Brahman.
And that brings us to our final, and maybe most powerful question. What if the whole point of all of this isn't to believe in some god out there? What if the point is to go on an investigation to discover the fundamental truth of what you already are?